we need to run down is, if they would have passed along this level of intelligence, if they would have shared that level of intelligence, would it have changed the security posture to the extent where President Trump would not have come out and given his speech at the Ellipse? John, Amanda, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you, especially during this time frame when we have an administration that actually wants to get to the truth.
It is amazing the amount of information that started flowing and the truths that we're starting to get that we were denied. Now, the last time we talked, you were hoping to go in and take a look at some of these informant reports. We had 26 FBI informants in the crowd, and it looks like they were informing quite a bit beforehand. Now, I know some of this is classified, so you can't give us specifics, but were those informants providing more stark information about the dangers that could have happened on January 6th, and was that not getting to the right people?
Well, that is the question that we had when, first of all, that I went and I looked at redacted copies of these confidential human sources reports, and then the FBI stepped up and allowed me to come over to the FBI building. And it's actually been during the shutdown that I went over and was able to sit down. And if there's been any positive side of the shutdown, it's that I've actually had more time to spend on this investigation. So I spent a good part of the day at the FBI looking at the unredacted reports, and what we want to look for is, what did the FBI know, when did they know it, and what did they do with the information? And what was the information? And I can tell you unequivocally, they had to know that there was something not only bad going to happen, but the reports coming from these confidential human sources, not just one, multiple sources from multiple organizations across multiple field offices across the nation, were reporting the same thing, that not only was there going to be violence in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol on January 6th, most of the reports were it was going to be a whole lot worse than what actually it turned out to be. And so I suspected we would find information. I was surprised that we found this significant intelligence that was derived from these people embedded in these organizations. There is no way that at least the Washington field office or the FBI headquarters was not aware that there were elements, not the entire crowd, there were elements of people coming to Washington, D.C. with the intent of attacking the Capitol of the United States. What I also found out is that is really the only intelligence that we can see that the FBI relied upon, because I've asked several times, what other intelligence did they derive? Did they get intelligence from other agencies like as Homeland Security, Department of Defense, the CIA, the intelligence community as a whole? And the answer I'm getting is no. And then my question was, what intelligence reports were sent out? And that's what we're looking for right now, because we're really having a hard time finding really any tangible reports that were sent to the Capitol Police or other agencies. And so my question is, what did they know? When did they know it? And what did they do with the information? We do now know what they did know. The question is, what did they do with it?
So I want to just follow up quickly, just from the reporting I've done the last couple of weeks. It seems to be that there might have been more suggestions that there could be armed resistance, armed insurgency, armed insurrection, that these informants were hearing and telling the FBI. And two, I've also heard rumblings that maybe Antifa was a concern that the FBI had on that day. Could you shine any light without violating the confidences that you have to keep?
Right, because the main thing about the confidentiality here and the classification is protecting who the sources are, right? So the information, I think we're at liberty to share the information that they had, and you're exactly right. There were elements, not every group that was there, but there were certain groups that were planning on an armed attack of the Capitol, and even against law enforcement if they got in the way. And it's not just isolated. It was, again, from several different places across the United States and reported to several different field offices. And so that is true. That's why I was saying there should have been even more security put in place. The National Guard should have been at the Capitol the first time Chief of Police Stephen Sund requested it, just based on that information. One of my concerns about this, and I'm just going to speak from my own self, and one of the things that I think we need to run down is, if they would have passed along this level of intelligence, if they would have shared that level of intelligence, would it have changed the security posture to the extent where President Trump would not have come out and given his speech at the Ellipse? Would it have significantly changed the security posture of everybody in Washington, D.C.? That's something else I want to look into. Was there a political motive by some to let some of this play out? And we've talked about this before in the past. Yeah. So that's something else that I think we need to look at, because we have to decouple the politics from our national security and the security of the American people when they're in Washington, D.C. The other question you ask about Antifa, the answer is yes. There was concerns that Antifa would be embedded within the crowds there. There were several references, again, not just isolated to one, but several different field offices, different organizations that were reporting that they had heard that Antifa would be embedded within the crowd.
Wow.
Goodness gracious. Mr. Chairman, I think there's probably a good chance that I ask you about this every time you're on here, but I guess I seem like a dog with the bone. But the footage and other materials and evidence that the previous January 6th committee had that they destroyed. I know at one point you had indicated that there was a chance of getting that back, refabricating it from hard drives or whatever the case may be. What's the status of that?
We're still working on that. We've sent out a trove of letters to even production companies that helped with the filming. They're telling us they don't have any, they didn't keep any of it. They turned it over to the January 6th committee. So we're casting a broad net. So far, we haven't caught anything. And I'm talking about specifically the videos of all the depositions. I think that's if we could get that, it would really turn the tide on things that have been happening with the Select Committee on January 6th. We're not stopping until we overturn every rock and every possibility. In this information age that we're in, and I just have a hard time believing that every piece of that has been destroyed. I think there's probably some element of it somewhere. But I also think as we start uncovering more and we start putting the pieces of this incredibly big puzzle together, people are going to realize we're getting to the truth. And I think you may start seeing some people coming out of the shadows and helping us a little bit. And I think you may see some of that coming out pretty soon.
Wow.
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, we all know it's no dirty secret that congressional staffers, it's kind of like musical chairs. They just kind of rotate between members of Congress. I'm sure you've reached out to those former staffers of the former members of the former January 6th committee.
Well, we have to the extent that we can. There is a barrier that's put around staff. Let me say that to some extent, but we have had some that have been cooperative. We do have staff members that have point us in the right direction. Let me say that, and this voluntary, they reach out to us, and so I think that's probably where a lot of information is. And I think as we uncover other elements, I explained to people this whole thing is like, it's not a jigsaw puzzle. As if you took 10,000-piece puzzles and you took all the pieces and you put them in one box for 10 different puzzles, shook them up and threw them on the table. And now you got to put all the pieces for 10 different puzzles together. We've got some of those pieces starting to come together in one puzzle. And as we start putting that together, I think it helps other pieces to come together, and other people will step up and help us. And as I said, I can't really divulge anything right now, but we are starting to have some of those reach out to us, informants that have new information that we had not had privy to in the past. And I think it's because they see that we're putting other pieces of the puzzle together.
It's amazing what happens when you start a truth ball. It starts creating an avalanche down the hill, and we've been denied so much truth. I want to ask one other question of you. I think some would have thought, well, those 26 informants were put in the crowd to create some mischief or unthing, but it looks like just the opposite. These informants were doing what we ask informants to do, warn us, but the information they gave doesn't get to the right hands to prevent the tragedy that occurred that day. Is your sense that these informants were doing good work, not nefarious work? And it's it's the failure to get the information up the chain that perhaps hurt us that day, right?
It is, and they were doing, and you know, when I'm looking for it, I'm looking for certain things. Are you having somebody, just one person, that's coming out with this rogue statement that isn't corroborated by anyone else? That's not the case. You're seeing the same story playing out in different versions across the entire country, and some you can tell there's more violence threatened from certain areas, but yet that's replicated in other places. They're all reporting the same thing, and it's just not prior to January 6th. Some of them are reporting during January 6th and post-reporting. And so that's what I found enlightening, is they continue to report what was going on, which increases their credibility, in my opinion, is that they were trying to do the right thing. But there's a couple of reports that I think we're going to hone into a little more and a little deeper, and they relate to what some groups were actually doing by going in the Capitol or being around the Capitol, that's different than what the Select Committee and the media has told us that they were actually there to do. Look, I've never been one of these that denied that there was violence. Yes, there was violence at the Capitol. But yet, some of the reporting is that maybe some of these groups, their intent was different. They were actually trying to help the law enforcement hold back some of these people, but yet they still got convicted.
Wow, that is some pretty powerful stuff. Sir, you just are relentless in your pursuit of the truth, and I think the country owes you a great debt of gratitude. We have learned so much because of your determination to get the American people the truth. It's a great honor to have you on the show today.
Well, we appreciate you both being willing to get the truth out. That's just something that has also been a challenge that we faced, is the news media that just either they won't cover it or they will cover it to push their own political agenda. But we appreciate you getting the truth out.
Yeah.
This is the part of the January 6th story the public was never supposed to see. Stay locked in. You're going to hear the exact lines, the suppressed intel, and the commentary the mainstream buried. If you want the truth to reach more people, make sure you subscribe, smash the like button, and drop a comment. It forces the algorithm to push this out. Share this video everywhere. They hid this story once, don't let them hide it again. No filter, no soft edges, just the truth as it unfolds. If you want more videos that cut past the narrative and expose what's really going on behind the scenes, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. Drop a comment below, even one word, because every comment helps push this truth past the censorship wall. Let's get this out to the people who were never allowed to hear it.